Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. And today I'm going to be reacting to every game in the NFL from Week 8. So I had a pretty solid week this week, going 11-5. Not as great as my weeks, the two prior before this one, where Week 6 had my best week, 13-1. Week 7 I went 12-3. So not as good as those weeks, but still a pretty overall good week for the picks. Let's break down each game. So, of course, we started off with that Thursday night football game between the Vikings and the Rams. And I already put out a short video reaction to that game, but obviously I'll expand on those thoughts because I think this game really said a lot. I think it said more about the Los Angeles Rams than it did the Vikings. I think we all kind of knew the Vikings. They obviously were not going to be like a 15-win team. They were bound to start racking up some of these losses. I did have them losing to Detroit last week. I did pick them to win in this one, but it really came down to the fact that I didn't know Cooper Kupp. I didn't know if he was playing in this game when I made the pick, and there was no way I knew Puka Nacua was playing. I don't think anyone really saw that one coming. That kind of just came out of nowhere. It was like 3 hours before the game started out of nowhere. It was like Puka Nacua will be playing tonight. And I was like, wow, that really does change things up for sure because, Puka Nacua last year as a rookie was one of the best players in the league. So you put that guy out there with Stafford, with McVay at the helm, one of the best offensive minds. This is a lethal offense when they're fully healthy. That's why last year they got off to a bad start, but as they figured things out more, as they integrated Puka more, their offense got really hot, and they went to the playoffs last year. I could see a very similar trajectory this season happening with the Los Angeles Rams. They had a ton of injuries up front in the season, but as the year's going on, they're getting more and more healthy, and they're showing everyone why they were projected to be a playoff team going into this year. I predicted them to be a playoff team. I'm sure a ton of people picked them to be a playoff team this year because it was on full display against a really good Vikings team, one of the best overall rosters in the NFL right now. The Vikings are very well-rounded. They've been considered an elite team this entire season. And the Los Angeles Rams had a statement win there, really relying on that high-powered offense when those guys are playing. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua was really good in his return. And this is a very, very winnable division for the LA Rams because the Niners, we're going to get to them. They're kind of imploding. Right now, Arizona is actually sitting at the top of the NFC West at 500. So the Rams are 3-4. The division leader is 4-4. So it's a very, very winnable division for the LA Rams going forward. And honestly, just like I said, we are going to talk about the Niners, of course. But how can you not have more confidence in the Rams right now? They're getting healthy. It's kind of like the opposite of that is happening for the 49ers as their injuries start to just rack up more and more. So the Rams, they get back on track here with a pretty impressive win. I know we had one of the worst no-call penalties I've ever seen with that face mask with Sam Darnold. Now, ultimately, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game because they were already down so much at that point in the game, but still an egregious missed call. Like I talked about this before in videos prior, we need to start holding the refs accountable because these guys are literally changing out courses of games. I know, like we said, this specific instance wouldn't have changed the outcome of this game, but there have been countless god-awful calls year after year, game after game. It seems like this year in particular, the refs have been the worst they've ever been. And yet these guys continue to keep going on. It's like if you are a bad player, if you suck as a player, a team will cut you. You will lose your job in a heartbeat. But these refs, they suck ass, but there's no accountability. They're still out there the next day for the next game. It's like, no, we need to start finding these refs for shit like this because that is completely fucking unacceptable. Not calling that especially for there to be. You guys had to have seen the camera angle. Like there was legitimately a referee standing 5 yards away from this, directly behind Sam Darnold, had his eyes on it, and there was no flag. That is completely fucking unacceptable to this sport. Because think about it. Think of Patrick Mahomes. If someone would have done that to Patrick Mahomes, if a defender would have done that to Mahomes, that defender would have been put in a fucking lockdown, maximum security prison and kicked out of the fucking league. So that really pissed me off. So refs, you got to be better. NFL, start holding these guys accountable. Start finding them for shitty calls. Start finding them for missing calls. Start firing these guys when they suck at their job, because they do. And when players suck, they get their jobs taken away. It should happen to the refs as well. So now I can move on to the Sunday slate of games. So that did, obviously, that game, the Rams-Vikings game, did put my record at 0-1, so I dropped there. Here's another game that I got wrong. The first Sunday slate game was the Ravens at Browns. Browns with one of the biggest upsets of the season thus far. And you look at the Ravens, 2 of their 3 losses are really questionable losses. They lost to the Raiders and they lost to the Browns. Those are 2 teams I think you can argue are in the bottom 5 of the NFL right now. And the Ravens have lost to both those teams and kind of, like, you can't even really defend it, especially that Raiders one. Like, you were up 10 late in the fourth quarter and yet you blew that. This one, I had 2 big takeaways from this Ravens game. The reason why they lost this game. The number one reason, if you guys listen to me all year, you know what I'm about to say. They didn't use Derrick Henry properly. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going through Monken's head or Harbaugh's head. Whoever's fucking decision it is to not have Derrick Henry out there is completely moronic. You know, there were stretches, like long stretches in the second half of this game where Derrick Henry just didn't touch the field. It's completely, absolutely nonsensical to not do that. Because, you know, the blueprint of the Baltimore Ravens this season, when they've looked their best, when they beat the Cowboys, when they beat the Bills, it was because Derrick Henry was out there. Because he is a Hall of Fame running back, still in the peak powers of his prime, the best running back in football. Why the fuck isn't he not on the field? Like, I cannot comprehend that. Like, you know, those first 2 games you lost earlier in the season, to the Chiefs and to the Raiders, you lost because you didn't use Derrick Henry. You went on a 4-game winning streak after that because you used Derrick Henry. And then we turn around here with the Browns and they're like, let's just not use him. You know, we lost both the games where we didn't use Derrick Henry a whole lot. Let's just try that again and see how that works. Well, no fucking wonder you lost the game. Like, that is completely mind-meltingly stupid to me. Like, I cannot understand. Why the fuck is Justice Hill on the field at all? He should never, ever, ever be on the field unless Derrick Henry's injured. Yet, I feel like in this game, maybe I'm wrong about it, but just from the eye test told me Justice Hill was on the field more in this game than Derrick Henry was. That is completely fucking idiotic from a coaching standpoint to allow that to happen. Like, you deserve to lose the game when you do shit like that. So, that was one big takeaway. My other big takeaway for the Browns was, this is not a bad roster. The Cleveland Browns do not have a bad roster. So, when you give them just a functioning level quarterback, it's not really that surprising that they won the game. Like, this is still a really good offensive line. Nick Chubb coming back. We know Nick Chubb isn't, you know, what he was a couple years ago, but it's still Nick Chubb. He's still a very capable NFL player. Turns out their weapons aren't that bad either between Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. They were making plays in this game. The defense is still really good in certain spots. You got Myles Garrett. You got Denzel Ward. So you take away arguably the worst starter in the entire league. Not even worst quarterback, just worst football player in the NFL in Deshaun Watson. You take him away and just put in a functioning quarterback in Jameis Winston. No one was saying Jameis was like an MVP or a stud or anything, but he can run an offense. He can run an NFL offense at an average level. And you saw that on full display. He was making throws that I know with full confidence that Deshaun Watson could not make. And it actually felt like his teammates gave a fuck about him. It felt like his offensive line was actually trying a lot harder. They were playing with a lot more effort and heart because they actually can follow a guy like Jameis, unlike the pathetic disgrace of a person that is Deshaun Watson. So that's really my big takeaway with the Browns is it's a good team. It's a good coaching staff. You give them a functioning quarterback. It's not really a surprise they won. Look at what they did last year with Joe Flacco. They had one of the most lethal passing attacks in the league last year when they inserted Joe Flacco into their team. So yeah, it's surprising for sure because they were, 9-point underdogs going to this game, but this isn't a bad roster. They were being held down by the worst player in the sport, and I think everyone kind of sees that now. It's very, very clear. So, obviously, I did get that one wrong. I put my picks at 0-2 for the week. Next up, we had that Colts-Texans game. Obviously, I think the big takeaway from this one is there's a lot of people out there now who are, like, officially pounding the gavel on Anthony Richardson. Like, we already did that with Bryce Young earlier this season, and I've had a couple videos on this channel where we've talked about Bryce Young and talked about how, Like, I just don't see it. Like, a lot of people out there defending him, like, oh, why would you bench him? Like, you're going to kill all of his confidence. You're giving up on him. Guys, Bryce Young just sucks. It's very clear there's nothing there. With Anthony Richardson, I feel like that's now starting to be what the conversation is. Like, he got benched today. They just announced Joe Flacco is going to be starting in Week 9 against the Minnesota Vikings. So they have officially benched Anthony Richardson, and I don't know. I think there's really two ways to interpret it. I talked about benching Anthony Richardson before they officially did it, and I said, the guy's only 22 years old. He clearly has a lot of physical traits. There's clearly something there with Anthony Richardson. Where with Bryce Young, there was nothing there. He's too small. His arm's no good. He's not a great athlete. There's nothing special about Bryce Young. There are special things about Anthony Richardson as a player. He is an incredible athlete. He has a phenomenal deep ball ability. We've seen plays where I still think he has arguably the best play of the season thus far. It was back in Week 1 against Houston. He threw like a 60-yard bomb off his back foot leaning the wrong way. It's like we have seen glimpses here and there where Anthony Richardson looks like he could become a star. But that's all they are, glimpses. And I think in 2024, Joe Flacco gives you a far better chance to win a football game than Anthony Richardson does. I don't think that's a controversial statement. And I do think people online acting like I've seen a lot of stuff today on Instagram about a lot of people freaking out about the Colts. Like, just like what I saw people freaking out whenever Bryce Young got benched. People are freaking out like, how could the organization do this to him? They're killing all this confidence. How's he ever going to be able to get his confidence back with this team benching him? Guys, he's fucking 22 years old. Like, benching him for a year to sit behind a better quarterback, I don't think that's really that destructive to Anthony Richardson's career path. Like, I really don't. This is not Bryce Young. Like we just said, there are redeemable qualities about Anthony Richardson, but from a game-to-game basis, he just doesn't give you a great chance to win a football game. I mean, hell, you barely beat the Miami Dolphins when they had Huntley out there. You struggled to win that game because of how bad Richardson was, and you lost this game because of how bad Anthony Richardson was. Like, Anthony Richardson objectively has been one of the worst starting quarterbacks this entire season. There's no arguing that. The stats show you that. He's one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks of all time right now. Can that change in the future? Certainly it can. And this organization invested a very high draft pick in Anthony Richardson. They drafted him 4th overall. Obviously, they care about this guy. They want him to succeed. So that's kind of my thing is, like, people need to fucking pump the brakes when they're talking about, like, how could the organization do this to him? Like, how would they ever gonna do this to him? Like, that shit drives me nuts because the coaching staff has no obligation to him. They are trying to win football games, and he does not give you a good chance of winning a football game because he's just simply not a good player right now. So I'm still not officially done with Anthony Richardson because, like I said, I do really, really think highly of his physical traits. He's a great athlete. He seems like a really good guy as well in the locker room, and that's always going to go go miles for you in terms of lasting your career in the NFL. He's well-liked, good athlete. Maybe down the road there could be something there with Anthony Richardson. But for right now, he's not good enough to be a starter in the NFL. It's simply clear. He's not ready, but he's 22 years old, guys. Sometimes it just takes time for people to blossom. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Like, we've been talking about those type of guys this whole season, like how they're having these big career resurgences. Sometimes guys just need a couple years to, like, adapt to the NFL and really get ready to play at this level. Some people... Not everyone's C.J. Stroud and can just walk in and be a day one stud. This is a fucking hard job. There's only 32 people who can do it in the league as a starter. So that's kind of my takeaway is pump the brakes with all the wah-wah stuff about Anthony Richardson. He's going to be fine. They are going to keep him on this team. He's going to get another chance. It's just right now, he's not good enough. It's very, very simple. So I think the Colts made 100% the right decision in benching him after this game because he was fucking terrible. He left because he was tired. He just said he was tired in the third quarter. He just fucking walked off the field and said, I'm done for now. And I think that really stems from the fact the guy's exhausted because the coaching staff knows he can't throw the ball, so we got to run him. We got to lean into what he can do, and really the only thing he can do right now is use his athletic traits, run. And so no shit he was tired, because that's really all he can do right now is run. He can't throw. He cannot throw at all. So that's my takeaway. So that puts my picks at 1 and 2. I got my first win there. Packers at Jags. Packers squeaked this one out 30-27. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I think that this really is just indicative of what Jacksonville is as a football team. Like they have glimpses here and there. I still believe in my heart of hearts that this Jaguars team is a lot better than what their record reflects. But their season's over. It's been over. Doug Peterson will be fired. They're going to be a mess probably for a while. They just have a lot of problems overall. But the terrible towel curse is real, because I think the Jags, since they beat us in Pittsburgh and stepped on the terrible towel, they've won 1 game since that happened. Or no, not 1. I think 2 games. Or 3. I don't fucking know. But they've basically imploded since that happened. They were 8-3 last year. They were the 1 seed in the AFC. They went on to win only 1 more game that season. And they've been a fucking shit show this year. So that's my take. Like, just don't disrespect the terrible towel, and your organization won't self-implode. It's pretty simple. But yeah, Green Bay, they get a big win there. So that puts my picks at 2 and 2. Next up, we have Titans at Lions. I told you guys this was going to be a bloodbath, and I don't need any credit for that, because anyone could have told you this was going to be a bloodbath. You have legitimately a bottom 5 team in the NFL right now with Tennessee. They're just a mess against... I'm now confidently saying the Lions are my NFC pick. For a while I was saying the Eagles. Going into the year, I picked the Eagles to win the NFC. They were my pick. I was really high on the Eagles. And they're starting to look good. The Eagles have had 2 really good weeks. Last week against the Giants, and then this week, of course, against the Bengals we're going to get to. But for me, the Lions right now, I think you can argue from a roster perspective, is just the most complete team in football right now. They don't have any holes on this team. Best line, best running back tandem, elite weapons. Jared Goff playing at a legit MVP level with the efficiency. Even though you lost Aiden Hutchinson, that really sucks. It's still a really, really talented defense and an incredible coaching staff. So there's really not a whole lot to really desire for if you're a Lions fan right now, because I think the roster is almost as close as it gets to being perfect. Yeah, the Lions, they're going to be a tough out. I think, like I said, they are my favorite going forward in the NFC. That puts my picks at 3 and 2. Next, we had that Falcons and Bucks game, another big divisional matchup. And yeah, I went with Atlanta here for just the simple fact that the Bucks had 2 of the worst injuries you could ever imagine. They happened both in the same game, between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, both getting injured. I mean, that's just like a soul crusher for your team. Not only for the fact that you're losing those guys, you're losing their talent. They're not going to be out there contributing to the team. That alone sucks, but think of what that has to do from a morale standpoint in that locker room. Losing those 2 guys. Godwin having the best year of his career. He's done for the year. Mike Evans, the earliest he can come back is week 12, and they could realistically lose every game before he comes back. So it's really, really a shame. I think Tampa did put up a much better fight in this game than I thought they were going to do. So I will give them credit for that. They're still a really scrappy team. I think that all kind of comes from Baker and the coaching staff, Todd Bowles. But yeah, the Falcons handle their business. The Falcons continue to be an impressive team for me to go into Tampa in a divisional matchup and control the game like they did in this one. And Kyle Pitts finally had a massive breakout game. He had 2 touchdowns. It was the first time in Kyle Pitts' career that he's ever had a 2-touchdown game. So you like to see that, because we've all been waiting for years now for Kyle Pitts to really deliver, and he finally did that. He had an incredible game. So that puts my picks at 4 and 2. Next up, so here's probably the one of the biggest games in terms of storyline coming out of this week. Jets at Patriots. Of course, I picked the Jets to win this one. I said I hope the Jets lose because of all the storylines coming out of it, and that's exactly what happened. They lost. Here's the thing, though, with the Jets. Like, I don't really have a whole lot to say, because if you've listened to my channel all year long, like, I knew the Jets were going to be bad. I knew that. Like, I put out a video before the season started, 5 reasons why the Jets are going to fail in 2024. And basically everything I said in that video has come true. Aaron's bad. The coaching staff's a fucking disaster, especially now after firing Saleh, who I didn't even think was that good, but it's clear Saleh was their best coach. Like, the defense has gotten noticeably worse without Robert Saleh there. Jeff Ulbrich wouldn't be a head coach on any other team in football right now, and that includes a lot of college teams as well. He's a fucking moron. He's a hack. He would not be a coach anywhere else but the Jets because they're in fucking la-la land right now. So Aaron sucks. He's washed up. Officially pounding the gavel on that. Their coaching staff's a disaster. Their offensive line, which they revamped by bringing in 2 guys on the wrong side of 35 and injury prone. And somehow that was going to fix their offensive line. Like, you had to be fucking drinking bleach if you thought that made sense. Like, for real. I really don't understand how people talk themselves into thinking the Jets were going to be an elite team. And you can say, oh, you're just you're kicking a dead horse. You're adding on the pile now that they're blowing up. No, I said all of this shit before the season started. And I had at least 10 Jets fans in my comments saying how big of a fucking moron I was. Everything I said about the Jets came true. And like I said, coming out of this game, I don't really have a whole lot to say. Because it's like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that they were going to kind of be a mess this year. So it's, to me, really not that surprising to see them. Like, obviously, I thought they'd win this game just because they have more talent, but this is what the Jets are. They're just not a very good football team. They don't really know what the fuck they're doing out there. So, I don't have, like, some big crazy rant to go on about the Jets because if you listen to my channel, you know exactly how I feel about the Jets. They're not a good football team. So, I think now, after this one, everyone kind of gets it. Like, there were maybe still some people out there holding on to maybe the Jets can go on a run, get that last wild card spot. That's done now. That is officially done. The Jets season is over. Officially done. And it's a shame because they do have a lot of talent on this team. They have a ton of talent on this team. It's just the quarterback's not good enough. The coaching staff is a fucking joke. And the ownership or the management of the team doesn't know what they're doing. So it's kind of like this mismatch of a lot of talent, but the philosophy behind this unit is a disaster because no one knows what they're doing on this team. So that obviously dropped my picks down to 4 and 3. I finally nailed an Arizona Cardinals pick. Finally. I mean, I feel like the Cardinals have been the most difficult team for me to predict this year because they're so wildly inconsistent. I finally nailed a Cardinals pick. They only won by a point, but it's a win. They beat the Dolphins, and they're now sitting at the top of the NFC West right now. Imagine if you would have said that before the season started. Hey, going into Week 9, the Arizona Cardinals are going to be at the top of the NFC West. Like, no one would have believed you. So, I will give the Cardinals, give the Cardinals a lot of credit for just continuing to be a scrappy team. Marvin Harrison Jr. played a really, really good football game in this one, which you love to see him continue to get better and better. I still believe going forward, Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be one of the most lethal duos in the league. And that was on full display in this game. So yeah, big win for the Cardinals. Puts my picks at 5 and 3. Next we had that big Eagles-Bengals matchup. I really wanted to watch this game, but it got flexed out for that Bears-Commanders game, which obviously we'll talk about in a second here. But this turned out to be a really, really big win for Philadelphia. And I did pick the Eagles in this one because I said my rationale was pretty simple. It's like, guys, I know both these teams have been kind of chaotic this year, but at the end of the day, I just think the Eagles have a far superior roster in this game. I think if you were to take the top 20 players on, I think Coward made this point. It was either Coward or one of the guys on Nerd Sesh I was listening said this, and it's so true about this game. If you were to take the 20 best players from that game, probably like 15 or 16 of the players would be Eagles. So the talent gap in this game was really, I think, on full display in this one. Jalen Hurts had not 1, not 2, but 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. So that really gets back to the identity of why the Eagles were so dominant in 2022, is Jalen was using his legs. I felt like Jalen got away from that last year a lot. He wanted to kind of prove that he can be that like stand straight up in the pocket, deliver the ball type guy. But whenever Jalen relies more on his dual threat ability, that's what made Jalen Hurts a runner-up for MVP. So that's a really encouraging sight for Eagles fans, is to see Jalen playing in that way. He was really good. And, of course, Saquon Barkley has been an absolute game changer for this offense. I mean, it's night and day from last year with Swift. Saquon Barkley is just incredible right now. I think behind Derrick Henry, probably the best running back in the league right now. He's amazing. The Bengals, I don't know what to do with the Bengals. There's this weird part of me that still thinks the Bengals have a shot for playoffs, just because I've said time after time on this channel, they always get off the slow starts. As the year goes on, they really heat up. I don't know why that is, but I don't know if that can be the case this year, because we have to talk about that defense. It's really, really bad. And I think the Bengals, they've just made some really poor personnel decisions over the past couple of years, moving off Jesse Bates, who I think is now arguably the best safety in football. I would obviously go Minka at 1, and then I'd put Jesse Bates at 2 as the second best safety in football. That's a big loss. He's gone. And Joe Mixon. Moving off Joe Mixon was a complete, terrible, bad decision. So the Bengals, we're going to continue to talk about them. I still haven't officially pounded the gavel on the Bengals season, but this is kind of what they are now, and it is kind of a shame. I mean, obviously as a Steelers fan, the Steelers fan in me wants to see the Bengals fail, of course, but looking at this from like an objective NFL view, it is kind of a shame with the Bengals, because I feel like they had that really short window to actually win a Super Bowl, and it feels like right now, it feels like that window is closed. Their defense is too bad. The offense, you got Burrow and Jamar, you got T too, but it's like, I don't know if T. Higgins is even going to be on the team. Like, if I had to bet, I would be more favorable in saying T. Higgins is not going to be a Bengal next year. So I just don't know with this team going forward. We're going to continue to talk about them as the year goes on. But I did get that one right. Puts my picks at 6-3. Next, Saints Chargers. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on, because if you listen to my prediction video, basically exactly what I said was going to happen in this game happened. The Saints just continue to be a fucking clown show. Dennis Allen's not going to keep his job. There's no way. The Chargers, they're just that gritty, scrappy team. Lad McConkey had a hell of a game in this one. If you go look at Lad McConkey's stats from this game, he was incredible. So I do think the Chargers are going to be a playoff team this year. I really do, because they're just going to continue to get wins like this. But the Saints, I still find it kind of comical how much people were hyping them, because I remember back after they beat the Cowboys, there were legitimately, I remember watching ESPN at work. There were legitimately conversations about, can the Saints go to the Super Bowl this year after they beat the Cowboys? And since that happened, they've gone on to lose 6 straight games, and they're one of the worst teams in the league right now. They have probably the worst starting quarterback. I mean, he's definitely in the debate, Spencer Rattler. They have a guy who everyone knows is going to get fired at head coach. They're just a mess, and that's exactly what I thought. I never bought the fool's gold that was the New Orleans Saints those first 2 weeks of the year. So that puts my picks at 7-3. Next, we had Bills at Seahawks. I thought this game was going to be a little more competitive. It really wasn't. The Bills really just crushed the Seahawks here. James Cook had an incredible game. Amari didn't do anything, which is kind of weird. I thought, Amari was going to immediately make an impact for this Bills team, and he did his first game. He already caught a touchdown, but he didn't do anything in this game. He did not show up for this game, but it didn't matter, because James Cook had an incredible game, and Seattle, they just didn't really show up too much in this one. Geno was not particularly great. They didn't have DK, so I thought it'd be a little more competitive. I still think I'm probably a little more higher on Seattle than most people, but I did have the Bills winning this one, so that does put my picks at 8-3. Next, we had that big Bears-Commanders game. I did pick the Bears in this one, so up until the final play, that pick looked good, and then that Hail Mary happened, of course, and it's just, electrifying to see anytime a Hail Mary happens, whether you're rooting for the team or not. it's always crazy to see a successful Hail Mary. So I give Jane Daniels a ton of credit. Tyreek Stevenson facing a lot of backlash. Because if you guys didn't see the viral clip, I'm sure you've seen it by now. Tyreek Stevenson, the Bears cornerback, the ball had already been snapped, and he was still off on the side talking shit to fans. And I think he's actually a good player, but how do you not cut him after that? Like, honestly, how can you ever allow that guy back in your locker room after doing that? Like, if he would have been fully engaged on this play, there would have been no way that this outcome would have happened. He would have batted the ball down. But since he was talking shit to fans while the play was already going on, he had to run over last second and try to tip the ball, and he tips it into the guy's hands that wins the Commanders this football game. So I like Tyreek Stevenson from a player perspective, but how do you keep this guy on your team? He's the biggest clown in football right now. But yeah, like I said, I'll give a ton of credit to Jaden. I probably will be making another MVP ladder this week. You know, I haven't done them every week. I've been doing them like, my plan was to do them like every 2 or 3 weeks. That way, because if I do it every week, it's going to be like the same guys. So I feel like if I do it more spaced out, then it's going to change a little more. And we definitely have to do an updated version now, because there's a good chance Jane Daniels could be sitting at the top of that list right now. I'd have to write it out, but another signature performance from the rookie sensation here. But I did obviously pick the Bears, so that puts me at 8-4. Next, Chiefs Raiders, I'm not going to spend time on. Just like I said in my predictions, I spent no time talking about it. I'm not going to do it again, because exactly what I said happened. The Chiefs get yet another win, continue to be undefeated. The Raiders continue to be just a mess. That's all I'm going to say about this game. There's not really a big takeaway. So that puts my picks at 9-4. Next, we had that Super Bowl 50 rematch between the Panthers and the Broncos. Bo Nix actually looked pretty good in this game. I get it was against the worst team in the NFL, but hey, there's something there. Maybe there is something there with Bo Nix. You know, I feel like I've been really, really critical of Bo Nix and the Broncos. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I was wrong about the Broncos. They're 5-3. That's kind of fucking crazy to me, you know. I was really bashing on the Broncos hard to start off the year, and I was kind of making fun of people out there who predicted the Broncos to be a playoff team this year. That doesn't look like that bad of a take right now. They're 5-3. They're a scrappy team. They pull out some wins here and there. I don't know. We'll have to keep monitoring the Broncos. Maybe I was wrong, and I'm willing to admit if I was wrong. I don't know yet for sure, but 5-3, I did not see that on the bingo card for the Denver Broncos. Next is the big one. I'm really, really embarrassed about this one because it basically went against everything I believe in about the NFL, and that is I picked the Cowboys to win an actual big game. I even said in that video, there's a good chance that I'm going to look like a fucking idiot with picking the Cowboys in that game. And guess what? I look like a fucking idiot because I picked the Cowboys in that game. Again, if you're a longtime listener of Steel City Sports, you know all my thoughts on the Cowboys. I have gone on rant after rant after rant on this page, especially last year. It was a lot more evident. You know, I talked a lot more about the Cowboys last year than I did this year. But I always told you I never believed in them. They're fool's gold. They show you who they really are in the big games, and it all comes down to Dak. And yet, somehow, I picked them to win a big game. So I feel like I should be punished in some way. I do have to do a punishment. I don't know what that's going to be, but shame on me for picking the Cowboys. You know, really my only rationale was the Niners kind of looked like they were self-imploding with all their injuries. Brock Purdy was fucking terrible against the Chiefs, throwing 3 picks. And I was like, maybe Brock is just not good without all of his guys. And he was down a couple of his guys going into this one. Obviously, no McCaffrey, no Ayuk. Debo was questionable. So I was like, okay, give me the Cowboys. And look what happened. At least CeeDee Lamb went off for me. I do have CeeDee in fantasy. That's my one silver lining from this game. CeeDee Lamb gave me 40 fucking points. About time. I was waiting for a big performance from CeeDee. So I like that, of course. But I am really, really publicly ashamed of myself for picking the Cowboys in a big game. I'm never, ever, ever going to do that again. Ever. Ever again. You know, they could play the Browns in prime time. or the Panthers in prime time. As long as it's a big game with a lot of eyeballs on it, I will never pick the Cowboys again with Dak Prescott as the guy. Because we know what Dak is now. And I don't think there's anyone out there, I don't want to talk about it anymore because I've done it to death on the channel. Shame on me. Puts my picks at 10-5. And, of course, we had last night's game, my favorite game of the week, of course. Monday Night Football. The New York Giants came down here to the Steelers, to Acrisure Stadium. I still hate that name, but, yeah, I mean, this game, I know, should have been, from a scoring perspective, a lot higher for the Steelers. If you watch this game, you know what I'm talking about. There were 3 touchdowns called back. Now, I think they're warranted to get called back for sure. I'm not defending that, but it does show you there is that potential from the Steelers offense. Because there was a part where it was 9-9, and I felt like it should have been 21-9, because all those chances where we got field goals looked like they should have been touchdowns. So there is some optimism there with the offenses. They give you glimpses where they look really good. Those splash plays to George Pickens, that's something Russell Wilson has really changed about this football team, is his deep ball ability. Those moon scratcher throws he throws up to GP, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin. He's unlocked an element of this offense we haven't had since Big Ben left, So I think this is the best Steelers team we've had probably since the 2020 Steelers. I think you'd have to go back to. But I would even argue that this team might be better than that team. Because, we did start in 2020. We did start off 11-0. But I was kind of saying they were fool's gold. I remember getting in arguments with my buddy about it. We had a really, really soft, easy schedule that year. And we lost in the first playoff game at home. I feel like this team, honestly, might be better than that team because this is the best defense in the NFL. I will argue that with anybody. It is the most money spent on a defense in the entire league, and I think it really shows. And you give Russell Wilson a good defense and it's been a really good run game the past 2 weeks with him at the helm. You give him a defense and you give him a run game, and he can take those shots. He makes throws that Justin Fields simply could not make. So that's why I chose to have Russell Wilson be the thumbnail of this week, is he really earned it because not only are we 2-0 with Russ, but he's really changed the style with which the Steelers can win and added an element, like I said, we haven't had since Big Ben left. So really, really fun time right now to be a Steelers fan. It's really exciting. I think at this point we are a lock to be a playoff team. Whereas back when we were 4-2 with Fields, it was we don't know. Things could go off the tracks at any given time. I don't feel that way with Russ. I feel like Russ really brings that stability to the offense. And it's not like he's playing at an MVP level or anything, or I'm saying he's an elite quarterback. He's just doing exactly what this offense needs. And that's we kind of just needed a grown-up out there to run this offense, and that's what Russ is doing. He brings that stability to this team. To pair that with the leadership of Tomlin and, of course, all of our guys on defense, I'm really, really confident about this team. We're now sitting atop the AFC North once again. So really, really fun time now to be a Steelers fan. That does put my picks for Week 8 at 11-5. So overall for the season, my picks are 84-46. That's been my reaction to Week 8. Definitely let me know all your thoughts in the comments. If you made it this far, really appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.